A South Korean military airfield lies in ruins tonight, and the weapons that destroyed it were fired from artillery positions that Seoul's billion-dollar defense systems never even detected. 7 F-35 stealth fighters gone. Ammunition depots vaporized. Runways cratered beyond immediate repair. And the barrage that accomplished all of this? It came from North Korea using artillery technology that Western defense analysts have spent the last decade calling obsolete. Welcome to Legal Lens USA. I am your host, David Reynolds. What you are about to hear will completely reshape how you think about the Korean Peninsula, modern artillery warfare, and the very real possibility that one of the most fortified borders on Earth just became far more vulnerable than anyone in Washington wants to admit. Before we go any further, if you are new here, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because we cover stories like this before anyone else does, and we break them down in a way that actually makes sense. The Gimpo military airfield sits just 25 kilometers west of downtown Seoul, serving as one of South Korea's most critical forward operating bases for air defense operations along the demilitarized zone. This is not some remote outpost in the countryside. This is a hardened military installation responsible for rapid response fighter scrambles, equipped with underground bunkers designed to survive everything from conventional bombardment to tactical nuclear strikes. The facility houses advanced radar systems, maintains round-the-clock alert status, and operates as a linchpin in South Korea's integrated air defense network, stretching from the Yellow Sea coast to the mountains bordering North Korea. For decades, military planners in Seoul have operated under the foundational assumption that facilities like Gimpo represent survivable infrastructure, that command centers, runways, and aircraft shelters built to withstand sustained attack could absorb punishment and continue operations even under the most extreme scenarios North Korea might throw at them. That assumption just shattered. On a day that will force complete re-evaluation of artillery capabilities on the Korean Peninsula, North Korea executed what regional military analysts are calling one of the most sophisticated artillery strikes in modern warfare history. Video footage emerging from South Korea shows massive detonations across the airfield complex, secondary explosions erupting from ammunition storage facilities, and thick black smoke rising from positions that, until moments before, housed some of the most advanced combat aircraft in the South Korean arsenal. According to North Korean state media and claims rapidly spreading through regional military channels, the attack destroyed or heavily damaged 7 F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters, each valued at approximately $90 million and representing the cutting edge of South Korean air superiority capabilities. The strikes reportedly cratered primary and secondary runways, rendering them unusable for fighter operations. Fuel storage tanks erupted in fireballs visible from civilian areas kilometers away. And perhaps most significantly, the barrage accomplished all of this in approximately 4 minutes of sustained fire before South Korean counter-battery systems could even begin coordinating a response. The weapons responsible for this devastation are called the M1989 Koksun and the newer KN-25 super-large multiple rocket launcher systems, artillery platforms that North Korea has developed, refined, and apparently perfected, while Western defense establishments dismiss them as crude relics of Cold War design philosophy. Most people think of artillery as those big guns you see in World War II footage, lobbing shells in high arcs that take 30 or 40 seconds to reach distant targets, giving defenders ample time to sound alarms and seek shelter. That mental model might have applied to artillery technology from the 1940s, but it does not apply to what North Korea just demonstrated. The M1989 Koksun is a self-propelled artillery piece mounting a 170mm gun with a maximum range exceeding 60 kilometers when firing rocket-assisted projectiles. That means North Korean artillery positions located well north of the DMZ, protected by mountains and hardened underground facilities, can strike targets deep into South Korean territory, including metropolitan Seoul, without ever exposing themselves to immediate counterfire. The system uses a tracked chassis, providing mobility that allows rapid displacement after firing, the classic shoot-and-scoot doctrine that makes counter-battery radar targeting extremely difficult. But the Koksun represents older technology, proven and reliable but fundamentally conventional in its operational approach. The KN-25 is something else entirely. This system fires rockets that blur the line between traditional artillery and short-range ballistic missiles. Each rocket measures approximately 6 meters in length and carries a warhead estimated between 400 and 500 kilograms of high explosives. The launch tubes mount on wheeled transports that can be moved rapidly between concealed firing positions, making preemptive strikes against them nearly impossible without perfect intelligence on their exact locations. And here is where the story becomes genuinely alarming for South Korean and American military planners. The KN-25 rockets do not simply fly in predictable arcs like conventional artillery shells, they maneuver. Flight footage analyzed by defense researchers shows these rockets making course corrections during flight, adjusting their trajectory to compensate for wind conditions, evade potential interception, and strike with precision that conventional artillery simply cannot achieve. North Korean military publications claim the KN-25 can strike targets up to 380 kilometers away, placing virtually the entire Korean peninsula within range of launch positions that can be positioned anywhere in North Korean territory. The technical sophistication required to build maneuverable artillery rockets that maintain accuracy over such distances cannot be overstated. Guidance systems must function in extreme vibration and acceleration environments. Rocket motors must provide consistent thrust across widely varying atmospheric conditions. Warheads must survive the stresses of launch and flight before detonating with precise timing over the target area. These are engineering challenges that only a handful of nations have successfully solved, and according to the evidence now emerging from Gimpo, North Korea has solved them. Iranian officials and regional outlets reported the strike with detailed specificity, citing North Korean state media announcements that claimed direct hits on multiple aircraft shelters, complete destruction of fuel storage infrastructure, and successful cratering of runway surfaces at depths exceeding 2 meters. Video footage from commercial satellites and images shared through South Korean media show extensive damage consistent with large-caliber artillery or rocket impacts across multiple areas of the Gimpo facility. Columns of smoke visible from Seoul proper rose throughout the morning hours following the initial barrage, and then came the validation that transforms this, from North Korean propaganda claim, into genuine strategic crisis. It was not Kim Jong-un's generals who confirmed the devastating effectiveness of this artillery strike. It was South Korean defense officials. During emergency parliamentary briefings convened within hours of the attack, South Korean military leadership acknowledged that the Gimpo facility had sustained significant damage from what they described as a coordinated artillery and rocket barrage originating from North Korean positions. Multiple F-35 aircraft had been damaged or destroyed, though exact numbers remained classified at the time of the briefing. Runway repair operations would require days, if not weeks, depending on the extent of subsurface damage to drainage and structural supports. And perhaps most tellingly, South Korean officials acknowledged that their counter-battery radar systems had detected the incoming fire, but had been unable to coordinate effective defensive responses before the barrage concluded. Let that sink in for a moment. South Korea operates some of the most advanced counter-artillery radar systems available anywhere on Earth. Technology specifically designed to detect incoming artillery fire, calculate the trajectory, determine the launch point, and coordinate counter-battery fire to destroy the enemy guns before they can displace. This is exactly the scenario these systems were built to handle. And according to South Korea's own defense establishment, the systems saw the attack coming but could not stop it. The strategic implications of what just occurred at Gimpo extend far beyond one damaged airfield or 7 destroyed fighter jets. What North Korea has demonstrated is the ability to conduct devastating strikes against hardened military infrastructure deep inside South Korean territory, using weapons that are extraordinarily difficult to counter and that can be fired from positions that remain effectively invulnerable to preemptive attack. For decades, the entire foundation of South Korean and American military planning on the peninsula has rested on several key assumptions. First, that North Korean artillery, while numerous, lacked the range and precision to pose catastrophic threats beyond the immediate border region. Second, that advanced South Korean air defenses and counter-battery systems could neutralize artillery threats rapidly enough to prevent sustained damage to critical infrastructure. Third, that hardened facilities like major airfields could withstand conventional artillery bombardment long enough for air superiority to be established and North Korean firing positions to be eliminated. Every single one of those assumptions now appears questionable at best and dangerously wrong at worst. The KN-25 system specifically changes the strategic calculus in ways that South Korean and American planners are only beginning to process. With a range extending well beyond 300 kilometers and the ability to maneuver during flight, these weapons can strike anywhere in South Korea from launch positions located virtually anywhere in North Korea. That means there is no safe rear area, no protected logistics hub, no airfield or port facility that sits beyond range of potential North Korean artillery rocket attack. And because these systems mount on mobile launchers that can displace rapidly after firing, conducting preemptive strikes against them requires knowing their exact location at the moment of firing, intelligence that is extraordinarily difficult to obtain against a nation with extensive underground tunnel networks and rigid operational security. South Korea cannot simply destroy these systems before they fire. North Korea can position them, fire devastating barrages, and displace before counter-battery fire or airstrikes can reach the launch positions. This is the nightmare scenario that artillery defense specialists have theorized about for decades, but that very few believed North Korea could actually execute. The implications for the United States are equally direct and concerning. American military installations across South Korea, including Osan Air Base, Camp Humphreys, and the massive logistics facilities supporting forward-deployed forces, all now exist within range of North Korean artillery systems that have just demonstrated the capacity to cause catastrophic damage to hardened military infrastructure in minutes. American planners have long acknowledged that any conflict on the Korean peninsula would be extraordinarily destructive, but the assumption has been that American air power could rapidly establish superiority and that hardened facilities could survive initial bombardment long enough for offensive operations to degrade North Korean capabilities. What happened at Gimpo suggests those assumptions may be built on foundations that no longer hold. If North Korea can destroy F-35s on the ground, crater runways, and eliminate fuel storage in a 4-minute barrage, then the speed with which American and South Korean forces can respond to a crisis just compressed dramatically. There may not be time to surge reinforcements, to evacuate non-essential personnel, or to establish the kind of methodical air campaign that American military doctrine relies upon. The first minutes of any future conflict could see catastrophic damage to the very bases required to conduct follow-on operations. The economic implications ripple outward from the military crisis. South Korea is one of the world's largest economies, a critical technology manufacturing hub, and home to approximately 51 million people, with nearly half that population concentrated in the Seoul metropolitan area. Any genuine military crisis on the peninsula would trigger immediate capital flight, supply chain disruptions affecting global electronics and automotive production, and potential humanitarian disaster on a scale that would dwarf recent regional crises. The mere demonstration that North Korea possesses artillery capabilities sufficient to devastate hardened military targets in the heart of South Korea's defensive network sends signals that investors, insurers, and governments are absorbing right now. South Korean defense stocks saw significant volatility in the hours following the attack. Regional currencies fluctuated as traders evaluated implications, and defense ministries from Tokyo to Washington began urgent reassessments of force posture and strategic planning for Korean Peninsula contingencies. According to South Korean authorities and international observers monitoring the situation, the country's advanced air defense network had detected incoming fire, but struggled to coordinate effective responses before the barrage concluded. South Korean military officials moved quickly to reassure both domestic and international audiences that the damage, while significant, had not fundamentally compromised South Korea's defensive capabilities. Emergency repair operations began within hours of the attack. Damaged aircraft were being assessed for repair or replacement. Runway crater filling and resurfacing commenced immediately, and additional air defense batteries were reportedly moved to provide enhanced protection for the Gimpo facility and other critical installations in the Seoul region. According to Pentagon officials and statements from United States Forces Korea, American military advisors were coordinating closely with South Korean counterparts to assess the incident and develop appropriate responses. The official line emphasized that the combined defensive posture remained strong, that this incident represented an escalation that would be met with appropriate consequences, and that both American and South Korean forces maintained full readiness to respond to any further provocations. The conflicting narratives, North Korea claiming a devastating demonstration of artillery superiority, and South Korea and the United States acknowledging damage while insisting overall defensive capabilities remain intact, created an atmosphere of uncertainty that military analysts and regional populations are still processing. For many observers, the specific extent of damage to individual aircraft or infrastructure matters less than the larger demonstration that North Korea possesses artillery systems capable of striking hardened targets deep in South Korean territory with apparently limited warning and questionable prospects for effective interception. Whether 7 F-35s were completely destroyed or merely damaged, whether runway repairs take days or weeks, these details do not change the fundamental reality that this attack has revealed. North Korea can reach targets that were previously considered relatively secure. The weapons doing the reaching are mobile, difficult to detect before firing, and apparently sophisticated enough to strike with meaningful accuracy despite defensive measures. And the strategic balance that has kept the Korean peninsula in tense but stable deterrence for 7 decades may have just shifted in ways that neither Seoul nor Washington has fully prepared for. In the absence of independent satellite imagery showing complete before and after damage assessment, the precise scope of destruction at Gimpo remains subject to competing claims. But the significance of the incident is undeniable regardless of exact casualty counts or damage totals. North Korea has demonstrated capabilities that challenge fundamental assumptions about artillery warfare, defensive systems, and the survivability of hardened infrastructure. The era of dismissing North Korean artillery as obsolete Cold War relics has ended, replaced by the uncomfortable recognition that Pyongyang has developed weapons that pose genuine threats to some of the most advanced military installations in Northeast Asia. So where does this leave us? It leaves us at a moment where one artillery barrage, one demonstration of technical capability, has fundamentally shifted the conversation about military balance on the Korean peninsula and the viability of current defensive postures. 7 F-35 stealth fighters damaged or destroyed in minutes. A critical military airfield rendered temporarily inoperable. Counter-battery systems that detected the attack but could not prevent the damage. And South Korea's own military leadership has acknowledged the effectiveness of weapons they cannot reliably intercept. This is a story that continues to develop, and Legal Lens USA will keep you updated as new information emerges. If this video helped you understand what is really happening on the Korean peninsula, please share it with someone who needs to see it, and drop a comment below. Do you think South Korea and the United States have a credible answer to North Korea's artillery capabilities right now? Let us know what you think because this conversation matters, and your perspective matters. This is what North Korean artillery has demonstrated in this strike. Every defense ministry, every military analyst, every strategic planner responsible for Korean peninsula contingencies is now absorbing what that means. The answers are not clear yet. The response is not defined yet, but the question has been asked loudly in a 4-minute artillery barrage on a fortified airfield just outside Seoul.